and welcome to the program. Well, ahead, we'll be talking music from rock to country with the head of music at XYZ Networks, Sean James. James Manning will bring us across the TV scandals at the 10 Network, plus we'll have all the ratings and the newest media IPO, Pandora. But first, former Fairfax chairman Ron Walker has confirmed to The Australian he and a consortium of wealthy Melbourne families are interested in buying The Age and 3AW. The group has made approaches to Greg Highwood and Roger Corbett in the past weeks, but it's believed they're adamant the Melbourne assets will stay in the Fairfax portfolio. Watching this story like a hawk is our co-host James Manning, the editor and publisher of Mediaweek, and he joins us this week from Perth. James, good to see you across the other side of the country. Tell us about this latest story with Ron Walker, The Age and potentially 3AW, that they're interested in buying them.
Yeah, they don't seem to have got very far with this offer or this expression of interest. I think they were hoping to do some due diligence on the books, but I don't think it even got that far. Ron Walker, of course, former chairman of Fairfax, leading a group of businessmen who thought, look, they're selling off the 3AW or the radio stations. What if we pick that up, combined it with The Age? Not surprising that that Greg Highwood and Roger Corbett aren't really interested in hiving off one of the newspapers, because I think they're obviously looking at a lot of synergies down the track there.
Obviously, the strategic review they're doing is all about, you know, having a single focus and keeping the prime assets, which of course are the broadsheets.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's lots of talk about, oh, look, they don't generate as much revenue as they once did, but I think it's really they're still the flagships of the company, definitely The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, and if you took one of those out of it, it'd be a very different beast.
Now, James, we mentioned this last week on the show. It was just kind of coming to light then that Fairfax has confirmed that it will be signing up to Readership Works. Just talk us through this story.
Yeah, we mentioned it briefly last week, and a lot of people's eyes gel over when you start talking readership, but it's quite an important measurement of the size of your audience. It's what advertisers use to buy their ads in the newspaper. And for years, people have relied on Roy Morgan readership. We've had them on the show previously. We've talked about it. The newspaper publishers, or most of them, had decided, look, we'd like to own this sort of this metric and then sort of hand it out to the industry. Everybody came on board except Fairfax Media. But then there's been a change of mind. Greg Highwood has joined the Newspaper Works, and the division of Newspaper Works is Readership Works. It's all a bit confusing. I hope you're following me. But he came on board and they managed to talk him around, and so they've officially signed up. So there will be all the major newspaper publishers supporting this new readership measurement, although the announcement was very light on detail about when we can expect to see that happen, but we'll probably cover that in future weeks.
All right. Still on Fairfax, somebody else that the company's managed to talk around is Gary Linnell. He's heading back there.
Yeah, he is. Started with Fairfax back in 1982. Worked out of Melbourne for a long time with them. He left and he's been on a bit of a media journey, if you like. He went to ACP magazines, where he was the editor of The Bulletin. Moved on to Channel 9, head of news and current affairs. Then moved on again to News Limited, edited the Daily Telegraph. Left there earlier this year. Now he's signed up. He's taking on a broad sort of looking at shared editorial. He'll be sort of getting on top of all that. Some chat that they'll be sharing a lot more than they have in the past. They already do quite a lot of that, but he'll be sort of stepping that up, looking at ways to save money. But for mine, he's almost worth as much as a writer too. He did some great work at the telly before he took on the editor's role. Was this sort of on the cards when he left News Limited? Well, I think so. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I mean, there was... I don't think he said anything maybe when he was leaving, because they were full of praise for him. It's rare to see a press release when somebody leaves a company and really paid massive tribute to him. So I don't know if they would have been so keen if they knew he was going to work for Fairfax. All right. But he's not allowed to start work till September, and he's going to squeeze in a holiday in Italy before then. Nice. All right. Let's switch gears. Foxtel preparing to launch some of those channels on the Telstra T-Box. Yeah, it's been chatted about for a while. You know, would Foxtel and Telstra sort of, they're partners obviously, would they get their channels on the T-Box. There's currently quite a bit of content on there, but it's really lacked the subscription platform. I think it's going to be similar to the Foxtel offering that you can get on the Xbox. There'll be a strip down, there'll be something like 30 channels perhaps, a low subscription fee, about $20 a month. It'll be a bit of a taster. The idea being if people like what they see, they might sort of upscale to a full-blown Foxtel subscription.
Indeed, it's all about extending that reach for Foxtel. Well, our next guest is actually someone who also likes to get as many eyeballs as possible on the Foxtel platform. Sean James is the head of XYZ Music Channels and joins us now. Sean, thank you for coming along. Good to have you in the studio. I guess we'll start off with something that's just happened recently, the Astra nominations. Your little stable's doing quite well there.
Yeah, the 4 channels that we are custodians of were fortunate enough to pick up 7 nominations, which was terrific. And I think really indicative of, you know, the great breadth we have across the brands that we own and operate at XYZ.
Sean, the music channels, it obviously reaches a younger demographic. How hard is it for you guys to make a bit of noise out in sort of maybe agency land, people who buy the channels, the ads and all that sort of?
James, there's no question that when it comes to the music channels, you know, we are a niche offering across the platform, but across the brands that we have V servicing the younger end of the demographic, specifically 16 to 24, if you like, with Channel V, and V Hits is slightly broader. Max certainly speaks to a 25 to 54 audience, and CMC is even broader again. I think one of the things that sets us apart, certainly with the media agencies and in Adland, is our ability to integrate, and also a number of the digital assets, such as our website, our social media platforms that we bring to the table.
I wanted to ask you about that integration. Is that something you think you guys do particularly well? Probably because you do have perhaps a younger audience, and you've got advertisers who understand that. What are some of the things that you're doing on the integration front?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I think we have a number of staff that are absolutely in that demographic and highly skilled in the digital and social arenas, and I think that more and more advertisers trying to speak to a youth audience recognise the need to play in that space as well as the traditional media. You know, some of the things we've done recently, we had a very successful campaign with B430, which is a locally produced show by the network that was fully integrated with Facebook in terms of looking for our audience to travel with us and become blog jockeys and write about the pre-production experience. More recently, we've had guerrilla gigs on Channel V where we announce a live and acoustic gig only 2 or 3 hours before the performance. The entire thing's driven by Facebook, but it's powerful enough where we had nearly 3,000 kids turn up to Rundle Mall in Adelaide for a gig with Good Charlotte the other week.
Sean, it's interesting that too about how you reach your audience. Is that social networking, is it a sort of a call to action? Can you use it as a programming tool? And what other ways do you sort of let your audience know what's on?
Certainly we've found, James, that in terms of social media in particular, it's definitely not something that we want to be advertising on. It's more about starting a conversation and being able to have a continual dialogue with our audience. I still think that in combination with our primary source of broadcast, which is the subscription platforms between Foxtel and Austar, that's really where we get a heavyweight, you know, message out, if you like. But it's augmenting, and in some respects it's making sure that we're in all the places where our audience is.
You mentioned some of your staff there. It must also be a big help to have a lot of your talent very heavily involved in this, and probably, you know, they've probably been on Twitter since close to day one, which is very different, you know, to a lot of perhaps other channels on the platforms, but, you know, a lot of traditional media where a lot of the presenters, a lot of the talent might have been a little bit later to the party.
No question, and I think that you know, all 4 of our Channel V presenters in particular have strong Twitter followings, and it allows the audience to develop that relationship with them that they may not get from the traditional broadcast environment. So I think in combination they're very powerful tools.
Sean, is there any interesting research about how big consumers of traditional media your audience is?
Look, I think they're still there, and we've certainly seen this year that, if you like, you know, V's actually increased its reach by about 7% on a year-on-year basis. Hits is slightly off at this point in time. So they're still there. I just think they're harder to talk to, and I get back to the point I made earlier, James, where I really think it's about using a combination of media to reach the audience. By far and away the most powerful is still the broadcast signal.
Let's have a look at some of the channels sort of a bit more specifically. Channel V, you mentioned the guerrilla gigs there. You've got summer festivals coming up, and also something interesting, the Riff program, the live version of that. It's been doing really well for you guys.
It has. We launched it before Christmas, and if you like, we had sort of 3 shows in December that was off Broadway, but since then we've brought it back and we premiered it at the big day out in Sydney on Australia Day. Since then we've managed to build the audience each week, so and what's even more pleasing is we look at the numbers, it's really speaking to that 16 to 24-year-old market. market. I think it's a combination of, it's a non-traditional music show. We don't have bands performing in the studio. There's some humour, there's some pre-recorded skits. There's also the ability for the audience to interact directly with the show via our website, via Facebook, via Twitter. So we're really trying to provide the full package there, and to date we're very happy with the way it's been performing.
Sean, I've been lucky enough to go to some of your Channel V gigs, and you work with some big names. I think was at the Foo Fighters earlier this year, and I think you're one of the partners in upcoming a sort of one-off Lady Gaga in Sydney. Tell us a bit about that.
We are, and you're absolutely right, James. I mean, one of the things we recognised last year, we sort of, if you like, drove a number of V live shows throughout the year, and what we found that to really cut through, given that the market's becoming even more cluttered with not just broadcast media, but also in the social and digital space, it's about having scale. So the Foo Fighters was an example of that. With regards to Lady Gaga, we've partnered up with MCM and with Austereo Southern Cross as a radio partner. So there'll be a one-off live show in Sydney. Fans have to enter via Facebook. We've had terrific traffic across the site since we launched that a couple of weeks ago, and we're certainly looking forward to it. And already we have another 5 or 6 proposals in market with regards to major acts in the second half of the year.
Just as well, one of the other channels in your stable is the country music channel, CMC. What's going on there? Are there any big events on the horizon? Yeah,
CMC is a terrific channel. It's, I think, in terms of the set of 4, one that is very much on brand at the moment. In the last 3 years, we've developed the CMC Rocks concept, which is a festival that the group has equity in with 2 Australian promoters. We moved the festival from Thredbo to the Hunter Valley last year and had enormous success with Alan Jackson headlining. So we're soon to announce our headliners for 2012, and we're really looking forward to doing that. And again, what it allows is it allows for our audience and our subscribers to touch the brand in a very real and meaningful way. Apart from that, Gympie's just around the corner. For anyone that hasn't experienced the Gympie muster, it definitely is something you should tick off your list. And of course, we continue to access the best of local and international country music programming.
So a lot of what you've been talking about is, I guess, the importance of having events, having things that people can sort of see and feel and touch, if you like, to augment what you really want, which is lots of people to watch the channel. And
I think
channels.
Music's a very emotive subject, if you like. Everyone has a personal preference, and we're in a very fortunate situation with our music brands that we're able to do that. We're able to have a terrific on-ground presence. We associate with a number of the large festivals. From a Max perspective, things like the Day on the Green series through the wineries in New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia. And it really augments the position we have on the platform. Given we are a niche offering, it's very important that we do that.
Sean, I'm interested in how big a driver your music channels are for Foxtel subscribers. I mean, when they sort of survey the people that sign up, where do the sort of music channels rate? And you seem to be, you do have stuff for all demos, but is it strongest amongst sort of children, motivating the parents to go on board?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it ebbs and flows. I mean, certainly from the youth perspective, if you look at the platforms offering with the really young market, 0 to 12, there's some terrific offerings there across the children's portfolio. V and V Hits, if you like, is probably taking people on that journey through adolescence till they hit their early 20s. I think from a Max and CMC's perspective, it's definitely a 25 plus audience, and you're probably talking to the primary bill payer or the decision maker in the household. So really, we do have feet in a couple of camps, and I think, what we do is we add to the proposition of subscription television, which is a huge variety of choice.
All right, James, I think you and I might be in the older camp there. Sean, thank you very much. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Now, coming up on Media Week, All Heart, News Limited's John Hartigan joins a throng of media CEOs taking part in this year's Sleep Out, raising money for Vinnies and awareness of Australia's homelessness problem. Stay with us.